misspelled your name again.
Okay, so I'm gonna call the Spencer County Redevelopment Meeting to order. It's 5 p.m. Mac, I think, has
Yeah,
a
hang on
minute.
just 1 second. Yep, Jen, you want a copy? So this is just
I know that you-
from our
you sent
May
these out.
19th, yeah.
Uh,
Is there any corrections or a motion to approve?
I'll make that motion.
I second.
We have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carries. All right, next on our agenda, we have to discuss the CD renewals. Mac?
Yeah, so we have 2 CDs that are coming up July 10th. I've checked with Freedom Hoosiers and German American. German American, we haven't heard from Hoosiers. They didn't respond last time either. But German American's the highest at 4.1 over 7 months, which is slightly above.
What we did
Freedom.
in May?
No, I think we did it 4.1
Okay.
last time we renewed too. So
Do we have a motion to go ahead with the
Is
recommendation
that
of
what it
German
was?
American?
Was it at German
yeah,
American?
they're at German American. So if we make, since the highest we go up, we can approve it, and then I'll go up there. We have 10 days after the 10th, and I'll just go up there, sign it, renew it, and it'd be 7 months after that. And our next one doesn't come up until October, or the other 2 don't come up until October.
Okay, so do we have a motion to approve the CD renewals?
I'll make a motion to have Mr. Webb renew the 2 CDs that are coming due on July 10th.
Steve is the motion. Do we have a second?
I'll second.
Jim is the second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Motion carried. Okay, the next on the agenda is to review the strategic plan presented by RJL Solutions, which was presented to Commissioners and Council on June 17th. Before I go into that, at our last meeting, there was an RJL presentation to discuss our roles and responsibilities from a redevelopment commission. Does anybody have any questions that they want to discuss from that presentation? If not, I guess we can go into this economic development plan. I'll give you one.
Thank you.
Everybody else has got one. I have extra copies. There were a few. So this was presented to the commissioners on June 17th, and we have 30 days to approve the document and then accept it as a living document for our strategic plan. I think I forwarded this to you in an email.
This plan.
So I didn't know if anybody's had a chance to review any of this information. I've read it. Some of it is, it's a starting document of a plan. Strategic, the focus area, I don't know, I'm kind of skipping back to the back, but did anybody want to talk about any of the beginning information?
Yeah.
I guess one of my questions would be on more housing options.
I had the same comment that they don't include single-family homes in their strategic, was it 5.1? I do think that there's an appetite for things like that. But
That's on page 48.
I do think it goes hand in hand with one of their other strategic items of infrastructure, sewer access. So, looking at it, it makes sense to ID areas that already have those so that we don't end up in a situation where we're turning into urban sprawl, where we're extending beyond where, that's just, initially looking at it, that's something that I noticed too, is that the type of housing, they were exclusive of single-family homes, and it's probably some of my bias having a young family, I think there's an appetite for it.
Well, maybe that when they use the word workforce senior and multifamily units, maybe workforce is the type of single-family home, and then we have senior single homes. But you're taking it that it's all duplexes and apartments?
That's the way I took it. Maybe that's not what was meant
Well,
by
I
it.
think that we should make that note and change the language to add single-family homes. What's everybody else think? I mean, I think these are recommendations that should be made for this document.
Just looking at this, Heather, I tend to agree with you that the workforce,
Do you think it falls
that
into
could
that?
probably, that probably falls in that category.
Sometimes I feel like that term kind of gets ambiguous, and some people use it as, like Princeton, their workforce housing is complexes, or, and I think
Well, that's the other thing, like what,
I would have to say, is that something?
apartment type
Right.
stuff,
Yeah.
workforce,
Is that-
traveling workforce.
Is that truly something we want in Spencer County?
What, the
As
precedent
far
type
as
of homes?
out of county, now then if you get into the cities, say Dale, say Rockport, say Hatfield, maybe that's something that you would want in those places. A lot of questions on stuff like that. That needs to be closer to the urban areas that we have in our county.
Yeah, and I think, most of this hinges on infrastructure, the sewer access, because you can't, it's getting difficult to have significant development that does not have access to those things, or pretty immediate access to those. And even if it's not inside of a municipality, on that perimeter where it's feasible, right? I mean,
Yeah.
because like you take Grandview, for instance, and their boundaries, anything doesn't flood is already
Taken
swallowed
care of.
up, yeah. But there's things on the perimeter that possibly, I don't know. Just thoughts.
Well, what do you make of the, so maybe that's just terminology on type, but then what do you make on the encouraging the development of, it has updating local zoning codes? Do we have a problem with local zoning codes?
There is one, I think it's outdated, we've talked about it before, is the areas that are zoned agriculture, you had to have X amount of acreage to build a house. And I think when it was put in, it was because that's how much you needed for a septic. And so maybe if there is any, it'd be small things like that.
And your thing about that is, with this new septic, and Bill can help me on this one, with the Presby systems that has come out, really your septic, the reason a lot of that was, so if you had a septic failure, that you could put another septic in. With your Presby systems, you're tighter, right, Bill?
Right, that's why they have 3,000 plus of them up north of Brown County, where the terrain's really challenging, Crawford County.
What is the
I mean, you
typical
could go-
footprint that would be needed for a parcel?
We can go down to a half acre now.
Yeah, but I don't know if they've changed the code here in the last year, have they? They got bought out by the big Canadian company, so I don't know if they work with the state to tweak it. In other words, whether the footprint can be a half acre now, I don't know about that right But, you know, it came out of the New England area, and it came, it's all through Ohio and up in northern Indiana especially, where you had small, you know, you had tight spots to try to deal with this stuff. And the Presby system was the answer that everybody was going to. So I'm sure there was less than an acre in some cases, but it might have been with waivers.
Was that the original, do you know, was that the original thought behind the 1 acre in agriculture was to make sure that there's adequate room for?
I think that might have came out of the 97 flood, and some of the things that were changed then. Because you remember back in 97, FEMA actually came and told the commissioners, you guys aren't really addressing your building and your septic systems code the way it should be, and if you don't stop that, we're gonna not let you be insured. I think it was May 5th of 97 when that's in the minutes. So I think out of that came the Deuce Township sewer initiative, the ordinances that we used to have around that came out of that 97 area, where a lot of things were said, well, where they finally started to look at some of the issues that were causing the health issues around septic systems.
And you know, you talk about your infrastructure thing. Like I say, with this Presby system, there is the option of putting that in rather than hooking up to your sewers or your septic, you know, your septic lines. And this is something we need to discuss with our health people on, do we need to narrow some of our things that we, you know, put the system in, some of the acreage, because I know that has been looked at by the state. I know the state is looking at that pretty hard. And I know some things have come out of Indianapolis on that. And Greg's actually, he's getting caught up on all that right now. So he'll be able to give us a report on that. So that might be something as commissioners that we do, that we can narrow our what it takes to build a house.
Did the commissioners set all the zoning code?
I'm sorry?
Does the board of commissioners set the zoning code?
Well, the planning and zoning can make a recommendation and then we approve it.
But
That's outside of municipalities though, so within city limits, if they choose to have their own, they can. So within
But the commissioners on the authoritative board
Yeah.
over the code.
Yep.
Yeah.
So that's something for us to look at, I'd say, here pretty soon, where we need to look and see, you know, because you've got a lot of say, places where you could put a 1 acre lot, where somebody could put a nice little house on, out on the roadway out there, that would be,
Yeah, absolutely.
you can put up a house for parents and a couple kids, you know, all up and down the roads here. So that's something I think we need to look at real hard, and as I say, I've already got Greg looking into that, so he'll get us a report on that.
I would say, since we don't do spot zoning, that maybe we have a little bit more leeway in looking historically at variances. And do we keep having the same variances come up over and over, and then maybe we should look at schedule of uses. So then we're not always going to the table saying, all right, we're gonna rezone this. Instead, we could just say, you know, like up north with the VRBOs, maybe there's one specific component, I don't know what it could be, but if we've done 15 variances for those, maybe we should just look at the limitations of that, just as an example. Because I feel like we are pretty good in that aspect of variances versus the spot zoning, which I assume would be a nightmare. We used to be like that, did we? Did we do spot zoning?
I'm not familiar with that.
I don't know that,
I'm
since
not
I've been with you
familiar
guys,
with that
I've
at all.
seen a rezoning come before you, have I? Yeah.
Just variances?
No, but that's kind of like, for example, the agricultural zoning. You know, there's a situation now where if you're outside the city limits, but you're using their sewer, you know, they're having you sign this document that you will annex into the town if it came about. I mean, I would think it would be something you could look at if there were so many homes in a said area, it becomes residential versus agriculture.
You see a lot of that down in Old Newburgh, to your point there, where they, you know very many people down in what I call Old Newburgh, up from the dam, up in that upper area. A lot of those have septic systems, but they had to kind of agree
Mhm.
to, if the annex came to be an issue, that they would sign on board, so.
Mhm.
I think it was very interesting, from my experience, the county threatened by that 97 thing from FEMA. Then actually the enforcement, what I saw for about 10 years, was the actual enforcement of things.
I think the state, at least as far as a water utility, that they can't force you to sign anything as far as,
Water.
yeah, as far as water.
Steve,
I
you
don't
all
know
have
sewer.
in
For sewer, I think, well, I know that the city of Rockport, they are now, if you,
They might be
But
going
mine,
against
there's
Indiana
sewer.
code though too, and not know it.
well, I think it's something that their attorney has advised them, but I don't know what,
What's this?
you're not their attorney, but.
You can't force annexation. I'm pretty sure a couple years ago the state put a kibosh on that.
Well, you can still annex, but it's a heck of a lot harder. I mean,
Yeah.
basically, if there's enough folks remonstrating, it gets to be really difficult to pull off and, you know.
I
it
think
gets
how it was
into court.
explained to me is if you build or develop in an area that at some point it becomes where those properties are connected and you signed up 10 years ago, you've already agreed at that point to be annexed if it's 10 years down the road.
Well, what a lot of folks did, and this is common in Warwick County and other folks, is if you wanted to get on a municipal sewer or water system, the town or city would make you sign an agreement that you would not remonstrate if they sought to annex you.
Is that enforceable?
Well, that's a really good question, and the state legislature came along and effectively passed a law that said it's not. There's competing arguments. I've not really seen it tested in court, but it was enough that caused most cities and towns to back off. I've done probably
Which I guess is the same.
5 or
thing.
6 annexations in the last 2 or 3 years, but they were all voluntary.
So I'm-
Every involuntary annexation, I've been a part of a lot of annexations,
Mhm.
and all the involuntary ones are very difficult to do now. It's voluntary now, there's people that wanna do it, and then obviously you can do that.
I was gonna say, because Ron Bacon was
Oh, he was,
head on pushing that, and that was what, 4 years ago?
yeah,
And so basically the annexation thing has got.
it's hard, yeah. But like I said, Chandler's damn near doubled its size for voluntary annexations.
Yeah, so now, in the northern end of the county, Steve, I know you do water board too, don't you?
Mhm.
And how much is not covered? I would say, like, as far as your houses in the northern end of the county, is most everything covered with the water, or are you still fighting quite a bit of that up there?
Well, I mean, systems are bumping into each other. Is that what you mean? So Santa Claus is bumping into Patoka Water and Finch Newton. So, it's not totally enclosed, but,
But you're getting closer.
the Santa Claus has been trying to put in some major water loops and upgrade lines to be able to handle expansion.
I know Rio's doing that right now too, and we have several areas where no water covers.
Yeah. I mean, there's still some areas, I mean, the water would be available, but it'd be fairly expensive to say get a line to a single family dwelling,
Yeah.
So back to this, Heather, are you looking for, I mean, it sounds like people want to see changes before this is approved, or approved
I
as
think
is?
that
What's
that
the,
is what this
consensus?
document is for, that, we commissioners are to review it. I pretty much was bringing it out today just as a tool for redevelopment for the future, and give the board a copy so we can start looking at areas where our redevelopment commission
The
need to focus.
The meeting, the commissioner meeting that Chad, was at, and Heather wasn't there for, Jonathan presented it, and then we made a motion to put it under review for 30 days, so it's actually on the website right now, and solicit feedback of,
Different groups.
yeah, I mean, basically like this
Including-
conversation now, you know,
Yeah,
does workforce include single family homes, does it, you know, and kind of get feedback that, and so it's set to July 15th is, you know, pending changes or whatever could be, adopted. But yeah, that was the motion we made during the 17th, I think.
Mhm.
Is that when that meeting was, to put it under review for 30 days, solicit feedback, and then go from there.
I mean, I just also think that this was information that was collected by the residents of the county, and it should be information that our board reviews, the elected officials should review, so we understand what the cities, towns, and communities are wanting out of the use of our roles and our tax dollars. I mean, that's pretty much, I just think it needs to be a living document. But first, us commissioners have to approve it as a living document. Right now, it's just a draft. That's all I pretty much thought that, we would pass it out today. If anybody had any, I emailed it before today's meeting, I realized it's a large document to review. But it's just something for us to start with. Was there anything else, that you noticed in here, Mac, that,
No, I don't even remember where I pulled it from, but one was, basically a connection with the private sector and development strategies that didn't, kind of like the workforce housing, I couldn't really wrap my head around, like, yeah, it sounds good, but what does it mean, you know, and so, I'll have to, that's all I wrote down was private sector appetite for housing development strategies. I'll have to go back and see where I pulled that from, but,
well,
I
something
guess
else?
something a little bit more actionable in that regard of, you know, I think everybody would say that's good, you know, how do we get from A to B, in that regard?
You know, in that same area where we were looking at on page 48, it talks about in strategy 5.4, define and prioritize targeted growth areas within municipalities and unincorporated communities where future development should be concentrated, which kind of follows up from the septic systems out in an agricultural zoned area. We should focus growth inside or close to incorporated areas, so we have the infrastructure that is needed to produce housing. So our decline in population is more feasible. I mean, you know, you are on the water board, so do you see a lot of growth with the water board at Santa Claus, or?
Well, there's definitely a lot of potential and a lot of interest. You know, if, as any project or development, all comes down to funding in the end probably. And, you know, assessed risk.
You mean from the town?
From the developer.
I think that's where we also need to look at, you know, is that something, you know, that's what this document is for, and is it stating that what the community thinks our tax dollars should assist in? So I think that's something, I mean, I'm not looking at it right off the top of my head, but I know we've had several developers come to us and ask for assistance with growth, and I'm not opposed to those things.
Well, just as an example, where Patoka fed into the town, it's an old line, went through some highly erodible ditches and the line became exposed and we had a couple breaks, which left Holiday Village kind of vulnerable to, not a whole lot of water. So one of these looping projects, we take another line around the opposite side. So that increases, not only does that increase capacity, but it puts in, if you do have a break on one of your mains, you can loop feed it, with valving. You can isolate the break, fix it, and everybody else still has water. So that's the type of, and then as you're doing that, if you can afford it, upsize the line for some growth. For me, around any type of town or municipality would be maybe the county could help. Okay, just they're putting in this line. Well, what's the potential that this line needs to be bigger in 10 years? Can county help upsize this line a little bit? Not fund the whole project, but maybe just fund an upgrade in the very beginning of the project.
We pretty well did that with the Santa Claus
Yes.
project you're at right
Yes.
now.
Yes.
It's true. Where is that project?
Where is it?
Mm-hmm.
Like physically, where is it?
Yeah, they started.
It's running water, the first one. Now we're started on the second one going over to Rye Hill.
Yeah, that's the one that I think, well, maybe we
James.
funded both of them. I know we funded
Well, the
600,000.
that's going to the one going to Rye
Right,
Hill.
yeah, county road
And that's,
700.
the engineering's being finalized on that, so that'll be out for bids. I think the county money has to be spent before the end of the year, if I'm going off my memory.
And the only other question I had is, of all these action items, is there a prioritization? Like 4.11, 4.12, 4.13, is that the sequential order of this is top priority, or is it just the way it was put together?
I don't know, I think that's a good
Because
question.
because a lot of these, involve funding or feasibility study or
I would hope
other.
that they put it in some type of an order, within the
I don't know.
1, 2, focus area 5, 1, 2, 3, 4. But I mean, that's a good question.
I mean, for me, just looking at it, there's information fairly general, which, between the council and the commissioners, you're gonna have to come up with a detailed of, job creation, wage benchmarks. All right, good. We could all say that, right? Job creation.
Well, and that
Now
right
come
there,
up
you
with some
just-
details
you
of
just
what
hit the nail
job
on the
creation
head.
is.
Whenever they hand this to another county, is it read the same as what ours reads?
I'd say there'd be similar information in it.
That's.
I mean, what politician wouldn't say job creation?
Yeah, I mean, to me, what I read in this, we're just getting where they went out and did for every county. I really feel that way. I mean, we paid a lot of money for this, and I bet you we could go to these other counties. I see they've got several other counties, and we could compare these, and they'll read exactly the same.
So what is your recommendation?
My recommendation is we keep going with what we're doing as far as getting power plants going in here. And I would really like to see us try to get some more done with some of these builders. that are actually building the houses, not the ones talking about it, the ones that are putting in 5 and 6 houses, what we can do for them. I know, it seems like every time I drive around, somebody's building a new house in the county. I mean, look how many houses have gone in our area over the past 2 years. Those people want to move here so they can be out of the cities. We have to accept that.
Yeah, I mean,
That the people want to live in the country. I don't know what we do with our cities, because they can basically still say they live in the country and live in Rockport. Or they live in the country and they live in Santa Claus and Christmas Lake Village. That, to me, is more important than putting up apartments.
I think, I mean, like you said, no one looks at this and is like, no, that's a bad idea. Higher paying jobs? No. Can we lower the minimum? Can we lower the minimum wage?
Right.
But I guess that with these areas and the strategies is to make sure that actions are prioritized. You know, like this is of strategy 5, encourage development of new housing types. That 5.1.1, that's either that's the top goal, or that's the low hanging fruit that we can get a win with, and then next one would be measurable. You know, like some of the things, can we measure these? You know, not just are we going to try to do them? Yeah, I mean, we want to do them, but we want to measure our success in.
It would be interesting if, what is it? RJL did have this weighted,
Yeah,
correct?
yeah,
It's like, so
priority.
prioritize, exactly. Where we get where's the low hanging fruit in Spencer County economic development or growth?
Start a snowball.
Right.
Just get it going. Just
Yeah.
get something rolling. And maybe they do have it prioritized. I don't know. But then, you know, the next thing would be, all right, what could we measure? So in a year, we can look and say 4.4.1, we are 10% below the goal. We're 10% above the goal, whatever that could be.
I really
And
feel
some of these
like
can't be
over
measurable.
the past few years, our expansion in house building has been very good in this county. Oh, compared to 10 years ago, compared, you know, in that span.
Well, I was curious if anybody did look into if we qualified for, I can't think offhand, what was that percentage, if you hit a certain percentage?
Heather had some of the numbers from the municipalities, and it's lower than what we talked about that night. So I don't
It's
know.
lower.
I don't
You mean
know.
like from the cities and towns?
Yeah, I think it was 1% growth. Or 3%.
So
1 or
Kay
3% growth over 3
is
years.
gonna be bringing this to our next commissioners meeting, but I got a sample of it today. You know, like in 2023, Rockport had 5 building permits, so evidently they had 5 homes that they built. That was in 23. In 24, they had 2 homes and 4 duplex units, which technically were 2 duplexes,
4 units.
4 units.
Well, on page 19, they have a current, historic, and future population projections based on what looks like state data. For what it's worth, it's pretty level, I guess you'd say. I don't know, just what I'm hearing, Heather, if looks like you're taking notes for RJL.
I am, I wrote down.
What
about
I'm hearing from
priority.
from folks is, a desire for this to reflect, and I think it is in here, but maybe more explicitly, new housing and, industry development, and I think in particular, how to solve the power plant, the power plant issue. I mean, I think those are the two critical ones. Nobody brought this up, and I'm just the lawyer, but I'll just say that, I think even RJL said this, people always talk about Holiday World and then overlook other stuff, but that is an incredible thing to build around. And, I think of places like Gatlinburg, et cetera, that had some really big high profile draw and were able to make it a multi-day thing, because right now people come in for Holiday World and leave, or maybe spend the night so they can spend 2 days at Holiday World. That is such an incredible attraction that if you have the right shops and hotels, there's a reason for people in the whole region to come and spend an extended weekend or a week, because it would be worth it. But you would need to build on that. And so I just don't think it's, well, that's great, we want to pivot and go somewhere else. I would just say, don't ignore that as something to build on. I don't know what the answer is, but.
The Community Foundation and the Visitors Bureau, I guess probably a year or so ago, they had a feasibility study done on a sports complex. And so they compared it, Holiday World, to other theme parks as far as attraction, and basically what you're saying is, what is it, 1 million something people go through Santa Claus every year?
Yeah.
Mostly because of Holiday World. And so that was to their point, that's what the feasibility. I don't know how many of them ever come back and say, no, that's a bad idea, but that was, their pull was, they're here, keep them here for another day or two,
Well, build on that,
And
yeah.
the economic impact of just having those same people for 72 hours versus 40. So, yeah, I mean.
I think they also were trying to find something that would be all year round.
Right.
That's,
So
yeah,
you're talking
exactly.
about inside complexes.
Right.
As long as it comes with hotels and they don't come here and then go to Ferdinand and stay the night, go to Jasper and stay the night. And
Right.
the idea is to
Stay here.
compound, you're here, then you're staying here and you're eating here and you're shopping here.
Well, and then that takes investment from some pretty big, as far as talking to hotel, you're talking hotels and all that.
Yeah,
That takes some pretty
big pockets.
big pockets for things like that. And then if you're talking about restaurants, who's gonna run them?
And it's because we're gonna build some houses.
Hmm?
You gotta have the people here.
No.
I think it all comes hand in
No,
hand.
who's gonna run them? The people don't wanna work like that anymore. You have to have people and you have to have owners that are gonna be there.
I mean, I think.
There's other troubles there,
Yeah, I think that's a very
All of
legit.
these weigh in together, I don't have to sit here and tell Steve how hard it is to get labor people to work anymore, because he deals with the same stuff that I deal with. It is very difficult to get people to come in and work.
And I think what you're talking about in the hospitality sector, especially during Holiday World's busy season, is because they're our number one employer. And so it spreads everybody else thin, but then winter comes around and now there's a lot of opportunities to work, but yeah, we are spread thin, especially during that prime tourism season.
Well, it sounds like you've got some good feedback for RJL. Go back to.
Are we locked into having to make a formal decision on July 15th? I don't know, I know a lot of other people. The devil's always in the detail. If somebody has the opportunity to look at some of that stuff, I know I'm usually pretty good about looking at it, but I haven't had time to look at it either. I'm just saying, the recommendations you give now, is that, the 15th, that's like a weeks away.
What?
I'm saying, are you locked into saying, this, with these few things that you guys have come up with here, is all we want to change, or would there be a 45-day period where maybe the public could also get some input to you guys? Because you don't have any more meetings now.
Well, I think that's who gave us this input, is the public.
Well,
The public gave the input, and I would think that, let's say it is adopted on the 15th, it's not that you can't make changes after it's adopted. Doesn't mean that,
This isn't a law, right? This is just a
I
plan.
heard you saying that July 15th is the date you mentioned.
August
saying-
August
A
15th,
lot more.
Or no.
Okay, I said
July.
July 15th.
That's
yeah.
the 30-day.
No, I'm saying is that a lot of people put input, I know 30 people put input, but then how that was interpreted and how it's put together in this, I'd like to have that opinion, say, well, I mean, it's interesting how they come up with this. They've heard this input from 500 people or 400 people, whatever it was that they got input from. And this is what we believe sincerely what they were telling us. I'm just saying, when you have a chance to read a document, you might say, gee, that's not what I remember hearing. You guys, you got the card, you know what you want to do.
I guess though, with what you're saying in regards to what you remember hearing, that were only the people that were in the room at the community center. You know, there were several forums that were not in that setting, so I wasn't available to hear all the comments.
I went to two, but I agree, there was only two that I went to. I mean, we were talking around, you're talking, and I can't remember whether Jonathan had somebody taking notes or not, I can't remember.
Yeah, I think, I think it's pretty, I mean, that's kind of the conversation, and I'm young, so I'm just gonna call it, the beef with the plan is that it's almost too broad, right? Like, it took everything, it was like, how do we take everything and then we put it out there? But I don't think we're beholden to it like a comprehensive plan where, that dictates everything else. I think this is so broad and exhaustive that it's too much, and we're saying, all right, tell us, like, where do you see the low-hanging fruit so we can get the ball rolling?
So then you just basically hit my end of it. Why do we even have to adopt it?
Well, because, we don't have to do anything. Except
I mean, why can't-
this is what the people of our county are asking us to do.
Well, isn't this, though,
It's a-
if it's adopted at all, it's gonna be done by the commissioners.
Is this a deliverable, a part of that original contract?
Well, what I'm saying is this would probably be a discussion you guys can discuss it now theoretically, or commissioners, but this is more of a commissioner meeting, right?
Correct.
Than it is.
Bill, is your sentiment and concern that if it's adopted in whatever form and fashion, that there would be no variance to stray from that? Is that your concern?
I don't know, that's where you look at an action plan in my mind. Formal action plan that says what, why is this what, how is it gonna get done, who's gonna do it, done, and by when. And then all of a sudden, a lot of this stuff becomes down focused. And then you have owners. So sometimes when you're having to get to a plan to work, when you put it down to pencil and you get down to that kind of detail, then all of a sudden, you really look at it with much more clearer eyes, and then you get into prioritization. And you say, well, we're gonna do this in phase one, this goes in the parking lot. When we get to phase one, or 80% of phase one, we'll look at what's in the parking lot. If you put it into pieces, I don't think you can come up with an action plan that got all that accomplished, in one thing. I'm telling you, you really gotta put your pen and pencil to it. I'm just saying, I haven't had a chance to go all the way through it either. I can't say there's any flaws I saw when I looked at it. I'm just saying that,
So your same sentiment is
I'm just saying that-
more measurable, more prioritization.
yeah, but I'm also saying, let the public have another 15 days to also digest it and come and ask you. What about page 72 or 36 or something,
Well, here's my concern. So it's already been 14 days, I guess, and there has not been any.
How many people have seen it?
Well, I think maybe on July 15th, the commissioners can assess, and if you're welcome, I would say to let them know, hey,
Prior to that.
I haven't been able to look at it, and they can say, okay, well, maybe we do need to give people more time, or we feel like we have. I think you can
But
assess
it
it
comes
then.
down, basically what.
Who knows, we don't know if they're gonna have time or not. And that's all.
Basically what it comes down to is accepting it with the understanding, the only way I would want to accept it is if I accept it with the understanding that it's a document that has been handed to us to push us forward so we can foresee in the future. That would be the only way. As far as, I just feel like some of this stuff is getting done. As far as buildings and that kind of stuff. I see things that are happening in Richland. I see things that are happening, hopefully, get a few things more going in Hatfield, in Lamar, in Santa Claus, you know, and all that.
Well, I
Let's
don't
just keep it
disagree.
going.
I
Why
think that this follows the plan.
why do I need an economic development plan to tell us that we need to help with the sewers, help with the water, help with this, try to help, you know, make things more accessible to build in the county? As far as accepting this, what good does it do us to accept it? Would be my question.
Well, I guess I worry is a lot of these conversations are really county commissioner conversations, and this is the redevelopment commission, and the whole point here is to give feedback. So I think you've gotten some feedback. I think the question of whether and when for the commissioners to adopt it, that's a decision for a commissioner meeting. You know?
Okay,
And, yeah, I mean, like, the feedback aspect, I mean, some of these we cannot measure. Like, some of them are just best practices, but there are some things in here like, infrastructure gap analysis. Identify and prepare priority development sites, like, those are all measurable. Like, after year one, we should know that, whether that got done or not, you know, and that's, I think that exceeds our role as commissioners to go out there and to identify and prepare. I think that's on the Lido. And so, I mean, some of just those types of things, and then it kind of straddles the line between actionable versus broad scope, big picture.
all right.
That's my 2 cents.
So I think that was good discussion in regards to the strategic plan. Does anybody have any old business they want to discuss? Any new business? Asking for a motion to adjourn.
Do we want to set a next meeting?
No, that would be under new business.
Sorry. I was typing in my next meeting section.
Oh, excuse me. Yes, I think we should, but what about, when was the last meeting?
May 5th, May 19th, July
So, I mean,
1st.
we're doing a good 6 weeks out.
We have to do it before,
Yeah, when are the next CDs due?
should be October 19th.
I think, well, same day as a commissioner meeting seems to make sense.
Yes, that does.
All right.
I mean, do you wanna wait all the way till October?
No, I mean, we could go September 2nd or September 16th, and then we could just make the motion like we've done before for me to source them out to the highest rate at the 5, 6, or 7 month term.
Sounds good to me.
So you want is there a date between the
What's
2nd
everybody
and
else think?
16th?
I like what Josh says, keep it on the commissioner.
I like that.
Well, I guess then we should go 2nd, because 16th will be council.
I say September 2nd is good. That's not too far away.
Steve, does that work for you?
Yep.
Okay, so 5 PM on September the 2nd will be the next redevelopment meeting.
Before we leave, we need to sign our meeting minutes, so we can file.
Just you and Heather. Is that
All
right?
right,
I think
I'll make a
everybody-
motion to adjourn.
Have a motion by Jim, is there a second?
Second.
Second by Matt, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye, motion carries. Thank you.
Got your book done?
Which book?
Your Lincoln book.
No, but Mr. Hoff gave me some good input.
Okay, well, that's what
Yeah.
me and him talked about. I
You
didn't
two
know.
wanna?
I
copy
gotta send
of
him
this?
the revisions of his input, but it's, I'm pretty excited about it.
You want a real copy?
Hey, nobody.
Yeah, right out there.
Oh, thank you. He's a gem. He's a
I mean, there ain't nobody knows more about it.
it's impressive. Okay, so,
Do you need pins or one of yours?
What's mine?
Heather, you did
Is that what
a
you're?
great job running this, and Mac, you did
Or
a great
this
job
one?
with the minutes and the
This one.
calendar.
The G2.
You sure?
Oh, yeah.
He will send that.
G2.
No, I think you had this on big.
Sister Betsy orders me a new thing of
I
pens
will lock
every
the
year.
door when we leave.
All right, I'm out of here, Dan.
See ya.
See y'all.
Thank you, Steve.
What's that?
Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome. What'd I do? Show up.
You good?
All right. Just what you know, get it, you can't make this stuff up. Oh, precious things. You can't make it up.
I am so hot, I don't know why.
I feel like it's kind of warm in here.
That thing's on like a timer and it shuts off.